We're discussing the Mueller Report this evening. Joining me tonight are Kevin Griffith, the State Committeeman for the Sarasota Democratic Party, Christian Ziegler, the Florida GOP Vice Chairman, and via Skype from Tampa, Dan Midori, midday host on AM 820 WWBA. Dan, I want to start with you. Let's take a look at one of the tweets from the other day where you said, and I quote, "After the Mueller Report, how does any American believe the media again?" I have no words, but I'm sure you have many. Dan, how bad is this for us in this business?
Well, it's absolutely horrific. And again, I stand by that tweet. I don't know how anybody can trust the media again. It's totally a disaster of epic proportions. I mean, you really think about it in this context. Over the course of the 2 years, the mainstream media took over 2,200 minutes that they did, in fact, dedicate to the Mueller Report, over 530,000 articles that they did, in fact, dedicate to the Mueller Report, over 16 exclusives, and all of those 16 exclusives, none of them panned out to be correct. And so when you think about the damage and the idea of fake news, I don't think it gets any more fake than this. And now they're basically holding on to the basic understanding of, oh my God, we just need to see the whole report because we can't have been this wrong and we have no regrets in this business. So we have to see the whole report because that will be our saving grace. But it won't be their saving grace, and I think we all understand that.
Now, clearly, Dan, if I were working for CNN, I think I would have a bit more egg on my face. But are you saying that all of us in this truth-telling news media are having problems with this?
I think they're all guilty by association.
Okay.
I do. I think that it comes down to it. You look at some of the marquee face names, the household names of the media industry, and they all have egg on their face. They've all been proven to be a part of the fake news apparatus. And it doesn't really matter if you're a Republican talking head, a Republican pundit, a Democratic pundit, whatever it might be. You've been lumped into this idea of fake news. And frankly, I think it makes the president more powerful. It makes the likelihood of his social media channels going direct to consumer more relevant.
All right, Dan, hold on just a second. I want to talk to the folks in studio here. Kevin, not a good day for media, but certainly not a good day for folks on the Democratic side of the aisle.
Sure, but one thing I want people to remember is that the Mueller Report started with Jeff Sessions, who was a Republican Attorney General who received information from James Comey, a Republican within the FBI, who apparently received information from John McCain or some other source who were Republicans. So this narrative that Donald Trump and the Republicans have put forward that it's Dems that were attacking him is not true. Without Jeff Sessions, there would have been no Mueller report or Mueller investigation.
That was the background to it. All right, Christian, you're kind of shaking your head in disbelief.
Kevin, I don't know what part in this timeline you're starting. Looks like in the middle, but really what kicked this off was a dossier under President Obama's watch. And this happened before the election. I believe they don't think that Donald Trump was going to win. I think President Obama probably took into consideration when he was doing the birther stuff that really made it personal, and he was going after Donald Trump whether he won or lost. He wanted to take him out.
And this is going back to the P dossier at this point,
yeah,
right?
this is back with GPS, Fusion GPS, and the Democrat opposition. No, this is actually what happened. They have it documented. But look, at the end of the day, we have $35 million spent on this. We had 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, 500 search warrants. They looked, the media, the Democrat Party, all they said was collusion, and here's what we got. This is the Democrat daddy right here. This is the New York Times, front cover of the New York Times. Mueller finds no Trump-Russia conspiracy. That's what we got out of this. It's embarrassing for the Democrats. It's embarrassing for the media. And I feel bad, Bill, because we do have some local good reporters, but they get caught up in this too. It's just as much their fault.
Trump's campaign manager, Trump's deputy campaign manager, his personal attorney, his first foreign advisor, they're all felons. Based upon this.
All been brought in.
Collusion, front page of the New York Times, no collusion.
See, I knew this was going to be a good topic. Guys, hold on. I know I have egg on my face. I know there are problems with perception, but let's stop for a moment on one thing we can all agree on. It is beautiful around here weather-wise. And we are continuing our discussion of the Mueller Report. We heard what Congressman Greg Steube had to say about the report, as well as what our guests thought about what Congressman Greg Steube thought about the Mueller Report. And let's hear what our guests think about it on their own. Again, tonight with us, Kevin Griffith, the State Committee of Sarasota Democratic Party, Christian Ziegler, Florida GOP Vice Chairman, and joining us via Skype from Tampa is Dan Midori, midday host on AM 820 WWBA. And Dan, again, you were very clear on some of your tweets over the past 72 hours or so that this is really not a good situation for those of us who cover news. How can we get out of this miry pit and kind of get back into a big J journalistic standpoint?
Well, I think that you have to do a couple of things. I think that, one, you have to get journalists off Twitter, especially when it comes to their opinions on Twitter, because their liberal bias does, in fact, bleed right through and bleeds through to a point where you cannot even – it's suffocating. The other would be you have to move away from unidentified anonymous sources. I think that it's too important now, and the idea of the anonymous source has been greatly ridiculed, greatly beaten up, and frankly has gotten it wrong numerous times over the last 2.5 years. So I think with those two things – and the moving away from opinion journalists and columnists, blending all together would be a great start.
Well, I know that the big conversation has been this is the biggest investigation since the time of Watergate. But clearly, during Watergate, we didn't have the tweeter machine. And that has changed everything.
It absolutely has. I mean, you see what exactly people believe at any given moment, at any given time. Journalists have been absolutely horrific with their liberal bias. It's something like 9 out of 10 journalists are registered Democrats. And if that didn't bleed through their work, it certainly bleeds through their tweets. So the idea of them having some sort of journalistic integrity, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But ultimately, people are having that snapshot in their personal views inside their household through social media, and they understand what position they're coming from.
Absolutely. All right, let's turn to Kevin now. Certainly, we have become a Twitter-based society, but there is the Twitterer-in-chief who is clearly not going to leave this one alone.
Yeah, and I think he's going to continue to go after what he considers his political enemies. You know, I'm a defense attorney in town, and one thing advice I'd give to the president, I don't know if he'd take it, but there's a big gap between criminal liability and, the evidence or no evidence. And he needs to be, I would be careful asking for more investigations because you don't know what's going to come out. I assume more would come out and it wouldn't necessarily exonerate him. And as you've heard and we saw before, there was no exoneration of the president.
Well, exoneration and no finding, there's a very slim line between the two, no finding of collusion and exoneration. How far apart are we talking here?
Well, it sets the bar really low to say, hey, the president didn't commit a crime.
Right.
Let's celebrate. Let's take a victory lap.
That's, the president shouldn't be committing a crime on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and he shouldn't be celebrating that because, again, when you go to this investigation, one thing it did find was that the Russians interfered in our election, and yet the Republicans and this administration haven't really taken any steps to cure that. And imagine if China came in supporting the Democrats. No collusion, but they just came in behind the Democratic presidential nominee. Wouldn't the Republicans and the rest of America, whatever your party is, want to investigate that?
Right.
Where's the investigation?
Where is the investigation, Christian?
Come on. Look, we've spent over 2 years now talking about some bogus hoax investigation. We come out with the Mueller Report, top page, New York Times, Democrat Party, the media. You both are real losers in this, and that's what it uncovered. And I think you guys are probably working together on this. But now we have a Democrat official here calling for more investigations. I mean, I think the Democrat Party is probably best served to move on and try to get the page turned. But unfortunately,
Aren't we
we're not.
As a country best served
Well,
to
that's
move
what
on?
that's what you would think. You would think the Democrat Party and the media would be celebrating that this came out and our country hasn't been. It's not as big of a problem as the Democrats tried to hype it up or the media tried to hype it up, but they're continuing the discussion. We saw it right here, and what we really need to do is figure out how did we get here, and then we need to hold people accountable in the media and also congressmen, members of Congress, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. We need to hold them accountable for this hoax that they pushed, the lies that they pushed, and they're continuing it. Now they're calling for more investigations. It's just crazy. It's nuts.
Right. See, you get all worked up, and then I have to take a break. It's like you can figure out our time. Again, we are just getting warmed up in our conversation on the Mueller Report. We'll be right back with more stuff after a quick break. Stick with us. This is getting good. So what does this mean going forward? Is this actually going to help the Trump campaign? in his bid for the 2020 election. Do you think it is, guys? You're nodding your head here.
This is. Look, it's not over. Mueller Report's here, produced the findings. This is everything that the Republicans have been saying for over 2 years now. We're doing our victory lap, but now it's time to start really diving in. How did we get here? Let's hold people accountable. Let's look at what the Obama administration had to play in here. But let's hold the media and let's hold the members of Congress that were out there every single day pushing a narrative that turned out to be completely false. And it was all based on, if you really dive into the dossier and everything else before, and these phony FISA warrants, all this stuff that was based on has been proven to be totally false, but yet the entire federal government spent over $35 million. They had X number of attorneys, a lot of attorneys on this, and it all proved to be false. That's a dangerous precedent, whether it's Donald Trump. Democrats may not like him now, but there may be a Democrat in the presidential seat in the future. We need to protect this from not happening in the future. So I think we need to look at it, hold people accountable. Hopefully people resign and get fired over it.
Well, and clearly, where we've gotten to as a country, Kevin, has set the precedent for this sort of thing to be happening time and time and time again.
I think we should accept the findings. You know, Mueller's a very experienced prosecutor, and it behooves both sides to accept the findings and move on. I think it actually benefits the Democrats if we talk about issues in 2020, because when we talk about issues, Democrats tend to do well. You saw today related to health care and the ACA. I mean, if the Democrats can talk about pre-existing conditions and the Republicans trying to remove the coverage for pre-existing conditions.
Absolutely, please, let's get back to issues.
Exactly, then I think the Democrats can win. You know, Rick Scott ran ads saying he supported pre-existing condition coverage, and now you see what's happening up in Washington. Those type of issues help Democrats, and that's what I want from our 2020 candidate. And I think we're better at that, we being the Democratic Party, than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a master at playing the victim and finding another opponent and going after them. We've seen that.
Aren't politicians on the whole great at playing toward the chaos? And if it's chaotic, then we can all help you through?
I don't agree that all politicians are like that. I agree that Donald Trump is like that. I don't believe Obama was like that. I think Bill Clinton was a great explainer. I think Obama called him the explainer in chief. I mean, I want to talk issues. We have 20 candidates or more that are going to run for president on the Democratic side. They're going to have to get into issues to win the primary.
It's not just issues, it's record. Donald Trump, we have more jobs than people looking for work. African-American unemployment record lows, Hispanic unemployment record lows, female unemployment record lows. He's doing a great job in this country on his own with the Democrats working against him. Where could we be if the Democrats actually tried to work with him when he got into office? But I'm looking forward over the next 2 years to let's talk about his record. Let's talk about the issues. Because I feel very confident that middle America is going to realize what Donald Trump's done for them, and he's going to go right back in that White House.
How about a federal deficit over $1 billion when he said he was going to trim
You know, it's so funny when the Democrats bring up the deficit, yet, you know,
but that's what he ran on.
But if you look at Obama's record and what he did to the deficit, he destroyed this country.
Guys, we got Mr. Maduri hanging out here on a wire. I want to bring him in here real quick. Dan, you kind of said that this was going to be what 45 could ride to the 2020 reelection.
Oh, he got reelected at 4 p.m. on Sunday. Don't make any ifs, ands, or buts about it. Donald Trump was reelected at 4 p.m. when the Mueller Report came out, or the summary of the Mueller Report came out. The Democrats cannot overcome that. It's such an unmitigated disaster that the Obama machine in Chicago literally dropped all the charges against Jussie Smollett, Empire Star, just to try to get the Mueller Report out of the
Wait a minute.
No, give me a second to explain this, because you have to understand this. No one of any clout has the authority or the ability to get a prosecutor to drop 16 indictments against an actor after he was caught whole-handedly doing what he did. But that's Obama's backyard. His lieutenants are there. They got it out of the news. That just shows you the Democrats aren't panicked. And going back to what you're saying, I mean, Donald Trump and his record, you can argue it all you want to. The economy's fine. The Green New Deal failed massively. 43 Democratic senators, not one of them voted for it. They're going to have to go more socialist during the primary. They have no chance to come out of a primary going socialist and then try to scramble back to the middle here in America. It's never going to happen.
Wow, you kind of put a firm exclamation point on that one, Dan. Let's go to Kevin. You're sitting here listening very intently to that. It's not a pretty picture that Dan paints.
It looks like I got 2-1 here today. I think the Democrats are going to run on an economy that works for all, a health care program that works for all, universal background checks on guns, banning assault weapons. These are things that are very positive. And I'm looking forward to an issues-based, like I said, an issues-based 2020 election.
How do we heal after this as a country? Is there a way to heal after this? And if not, where do we go from here?
You know, it's tough. The media has no credibility now, zero with the American people. The Democrat Party.
Wait a minute. I think we have credibility here at this table.
No, look. Some of I'll tell you, our local reporters do a great job here locally in Sarasota County. The further you get up the food chain and you get closer to Washington, D.C., which is really where people consume their news, the more of a failure they become and the more biased they become. You see it in Twitter, as Dan mentioned. You just see it all day, every day in the stories. But the Democrat Party's in trouble as well, too. They got a lot of egg on their face. For over 2 years, they pushed a hoax. I don't know how the American people can go and start to trust the media and start to trust the Democrat Party. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of recovery. And Democrat Party's in trouble after this. They're in trouble with their own base. You know, some of the people like AOC, she's not going to let them focus on issues. She's going to go out there and tear that party from within. And that's what's going to happen over the next year and a half. They're in a lot of trouble. I almost feel bad for them, but then I remember what their policies are, and I'm excited for it.
But yet there's still this common enemy here that we were looking at. I mean, and there's still an enemy of the presidency to many of these Democratic players.
You see what happens with Donald Trump. Everything in his wake gets destroyed. All of these people in his inner circle are felons. They're in jail, and Donald Trump keeps moving forward. You see what's going to happen to the Republican Party. Everyone's trying to coalesce around him, but they don't look in the rearview mirror and see everything that Donald Trump touches, in the end, fails.
Except for the Mueller report. He's been honest about that, and it came out and it vindicated him. Except for the economy.
It did not exonerate
But if you look at the
him.
economy, the people the majority of the American public, we talk all these issues in the media, all they care about is putting a roof over their house and feeding their family. Donald Trump has a record economy going on, record stock market. Like I said, more jobs than people looking for work in the first time in the history of this country. People are happy, the economy's good, our relationship with Israel is better, our status around the world is great. Look, we're in a position of power, and that's because Donald Trump's efforts, and we have a lot of positive going to 2020. Democrats are in trouble.
So he's made America great again.
Yes, now it's time to keep America great.
The poor, the old, the young, they're not moving ahead in this economy. Look at the tax cut. All it did is stock buybacks. And people who are already wealthy are doing well, and those who aren't have failed in
making
the
them
Trump
dependent
economy.
on the government, like the Democrats want to do, is going to push them even further down.
All right, hold on a second. We got to get to Dan. Dan, talk about this kabuki theater versus what we saw during the Kavanaugh hearings.
I think it's very similar. It becomes something that takes on a life of its own. But I would like to add one thing. I mean, you heard him say Donald Trump just keeps moving forward. Well, sometimes through hell, the only way is forward. I would also state that when you look at what is actually happening here, never forget, Russia knew that they could not actually break in and hack our election systems and change a vote. Russia's end goal was to turn the country upside down and have us eat each other from within. And so I would say Russia has been successful in that.
Gentlemen, do you concur?
I think we're always under attack from various countries, whether it's Russia or China. And, some things are more important, and that's one of them. We need to protect
Donald Trump's done nothing to stop it, and he's the president. This is the thing. He's a billionaire. He's the president, the most powerful person in the world,
right,
and he's always the victim.
What about President Obama saying there's no chance Russia can have any influence? And this is shown. Both Republicans and Democrats know that
Well, let me
Russia's
ask you this.
targeting us.
There has been shown that there's no collusion with the Trump administration. Has there been lack of collusion shown with any other administration?
Exactly. And again, they keep saying this is a Democratic hoax. Jeff Sessions was one of the most conservative senators. He was the first to endorse Donald Trump. He was appointed Attorney General. He named Mueller as the... and he's gone too, just like everyone else in Donald Trump's wake. Gone.
Look, Mueller was the Democrat Party's best friend until that report just dropped this week. Now Mueller's enemy number one for them.
He's not an enemy.
They discount Mueller's findings, and they want to excuse what his findings were.
I didn't discount them. I said we should accept them.
This is something that started under the Obama administration. It's when the FISA warrants happened. That's when the dossier was picked up by the FBI. That's when they decided to push a false narrative. That's when it started. This process played out. There was no obstruction, and now we have our findings.
John McCain, James Comey, Jeff Sessions, they're all Republicans. You can call them never Trumpers, but they're Republicans. This isn't a Democratic hoax. It was pushed by Republicans.
Good discussion, guys. Shake hands.
I love Kevin.
All right. See, I like to see us all getting on. Thank you very much to Kevin. Thank you very much to Christian. And also thanks to Dan back in Tampa for joining us tonight. Appreciate your insight on all of this, gentlemen. Thanks very much.